All right, try it now.
Test, test. Those of you who are still with us, do we have anybody on here with us yet? This new one?
Tyler, can you hear us?
Hopefully you can hear us a little bit better this time. We had to change a few things here. Improvise.
Yes.
Yay! Good deal. All right.
All right, welcome back, Fastpitch Huddle fans. It's Coach DP here alongside with Coach KP and Coach Nolte. We've got a great show planned for this evening. Sorry about the technical difficulties. We're in our brand new studio here and just trying to get things rolling. We've got lots of you joining back on here, so kind of go over a few things while we get some people joined back on. Over the last 10 days or so, when we went live with our Facebook page and things, several people have been asking, where in the heck are you guys from? And the easiest way I can describe where we're from is in the middle of the cornfields. We're basically right in central Illinois, a town called Mattoon. We're 2 hours north of St. Louis, 2 hours west of Indianapolis, 2.5 hours south of Chicago. So that'll give you a little idea of where we're located. The town's called Mattoon, like I said. It's the bagel capital of the world. So in the summer, there's a local softball tournament here called the Bagel Fest. That's the big tournament held in Mattoon. And Mattoon was once also known to be the baseball capital of the world. We're, like I said, 18,000 population, and we have 3 travel ball organizations located here in Mattoon. Obviously, the one that we run called Premier Fastpitch. We've been around. This is our 8th year. And then there's a program called the Mattoon Pride. I believe this is their 23rd year. And then there's another one called the Mattoon Cobras that has been around for at least 20 years, I think, or right around there. So even though we're in a small area, a lot of softball right here in our area. So, that's kind of what's led us to going live with this show. And as you tune in, please let us know where you're from. We'd like to hear where you're from and who's tuning in. So keep us in the loop on that. I see Crushed Tidal Waves checking in right now.
Allie Maynard, Michelle Apke, thanks for joining us. What else you got on there? We'll give you guys a few more minutes to get back on with us. I know we kind of had some difficulties earlier, but I think we're back on track here. Hi, Megan.
And also over the last week, some people were asking, why in the heck are you doing this? What's Fastpitch Huddle all about? And we talked about that some last week, but we'll just give a little summary. With our travel organization, Coach Nolte and Coach KP and myself, we spent years learning the sport, growing an organization, trying to grow as coaches, learning every day how to be a better coach, how to teach our players better, the game of softball as well as in life, and give kids the best opportunities that we can. And that's really what led us to starting our organization. And the sport is just growing, it's evolving, it's really booming right now, and we just want to share ideas. So when we started back 10 years ago, we wish there was a guide or a handbook on how to do things, but we had to learn kind of the hard way, go through all the ropes, figure out what tournaments to play in, figure out, what players to draw, how to put a team together, how many players to carry, all those good things. And so, we learned the hard way, and we want to share some of that information. We do all work other full-time jobs, but coaching is truly our passion. And so we just wanted the opportunity to share that with everyone, have a forum where people in the softball community can come together, like I said, celebrate this booming sport and all the aspects to learn, to teach, to reflect, and to grow. So we're excited about it. We hope you are as well. And one other thing before we dig into tonight's topics, I want to congratulate all the 2019 signees out there. A lot of signees recently, and feel free to submit pictures, post of your signing. So we've got several people joined on here. I think we can just dig right in into some of the topics for tonight. So basically tonight, what we wanted to discuss is the fall season, the winter season, um, kind of what they're all about, the benefits of playing fall softball, winter softball. The sport really has become a year-round sport, and that's kind of challenging for us. But if you want to stay on the cutting edge, you just have to do it. Really, we try to give our team breaks at times, but really, you finish up your summer season with nationals wherever you play, whether it's PGF, USA, Triple Crown, USSSA, NSA. You finish that nationals up, and it's boom the next week tryouts. And we used to be able to go from tryouts and take a month off, but now there's qualifying tournaments in September. So for the fall season, September is really a qualifying month, and getting your team together, really seeing how you can mold them together, get things working in the right direction, and then October's showcase and November's showcase. So
Yeah, for us, we're kind of like you said, we're in the middle of a cornfield, so we're drawing from maybe a 60-mile radius, small town kids, and all those small town kids all play multiple sports, and so when they play multiple sports, they're getting pulled lots of different directions from their schools and their athletic teams. So that can be challenging, but we try to make it work.
About over 15 years ago or so, before the big showcases and everything started, there was one. It was St. Louis Showcase. And I can remember we would practice after tryouts in August. We might practice 1 or 2 times. The kids would go off and play volleyball, golf, cross country, and then they would start right back up, and we would go down to that St. Louis Showcase, and that would be it. That would be it until high school ball started in March. So.
I see Crush Tidal Waves had a question. Any thoughts on tryouts before nationals so you get the best of the best? And that's a good topic, really. We've done it different ways, different years. We still hold tryouts every year. And more for our younger ages, I would say. At the older level, you try, by the time you're 16U, 18U, you try to have your players in your organization. You take care of your players, and they, you pick the right players. That's really where it all starts, is when you're doing a tryout. Obviously, the player has to have the ability that you're looking for, but even more so, then you have to basically interview the player. And that's really what leads us to knowing what we have moving forward. But you're right. I mean, there's a lot of teams doing tryouts before nationals. I absolutely do not like it as a coach, because you're trying to get your team. I mean, you try to build up your team for that national tournament. And I know a lot of players at the higher levels these days, they don't really look at nationals like they used to, but we do. We teach our teams to compete, play as a team. We don't pick up players to go to nationals unless it's a real
Due to
injury situation. So sometimes we'll do clinics or workouts in the summer. Even this last year, we had a tryout before nationals. We didn't really select anybody. It just gave us an opportunity to see players, and that was mainly because we were playing in the JO Cup, and we left from the JO Cup and went straight to California for PGF Nationals back-to-back weeks. So we were on the road for like 16 days straight, right at the prime tryout time.
So while we were gone, everybody else was having tryouts. It was difficult, but
travels everywhere, so we know what tournaments are out there in the summer for sure. In the fall, like Coach KP said, we have small town kids, 1A, 2A kids that are playing mini sports in high school, and so volleyball interferes with fall softball. The other thing that interferes with the fall softball now, with the new recruiting rules, Division I signings and Division I coaches can't talk to the players until September 1st of their junior year. So what we ran into this fall is we're playing in what's called the NIT Triple Crown, the NIT in Chicago, and a couple of our players are on college visits because that's like the middle of September, and September 1 is whenever the real visit season began this year for some of those players that have not had not been on visits. So that interferes with your September and October a little bit. Like I said, we played a Triple Crown tournament in Chicago in September, and then we also play in Crown Point has a PGF tournament. It's kind of a qualifier type deal. It's not a true qualifier, but it's a big time PGF tournament that you either have to qualify to play in it or be invited. So that's kind of what we do in September. There's a good tournaments. Now when you hit October, there's a lot of good tournaments out there. So October starts right out of the gate. You've got the Showcase 1. It's actually the last weekend of September. And so the Showcase 1 in Chesterfield, Missouri, run by Pat Rice. He's run a great tournament down there for many years. It's a Friday through Sunday tournament, 5-game guarantee. The one thing I would say about these tournaments is you can't predict the weather. And I know there was a lot of unhappy people in Chesterfield this year, but I think the tournament directors did the best they could do. And people say, it's all about the money this and money that. Well, I mean, yeah, it is. There's no way around that. But with what the tournament directors had to work with there and the weather situation and the rain, I think they did a fabulous job. Mm-hmm. Now, that same weekend that the Showcase 1 goes on in Chesterfield, there's also what's called a DeMarini in O'Fallon, Illinois. So you've got Chesterfield, Missouri, and O'Fallon, Illinois, like 45 minutes apart from each other. Two major tournaments. And Chesterfield has 16 fields at one complex, and O'Fallon has, I think, 10 now at one complex, 2 turf fields and 8 other fields. So that weekend, coaches fly into Lambert Airport in St. Louis, and they go either way. So that's a big weekend right out of the gate. And Joel Goller runs a great tournament there in O'Fallon. He has multiple tournaments throughout the year. And, you really have to prove yourself to get into those tournaments. So, and that all starts with building a resume early on, whether it's at 14U or 16U, or like in our organization, it was building a resume starting 8 years ago and proving that we belonged at that level. So that's why we got to play in the power pools in O'Fallon or in Chesterfield against some of the best. And as a director of an organization, I think it's important for you to continue to get in those tournaments. Is if you have a down year at a certain level, it's probably wise to let the director know, hey, my team's not strong enough to play in that power pool this year, but make sure and know that we'll be back next year. Just one of the things that being upfront and honest with these directors, I think, is huge, especially at those tournaments. So
we've got a couple of questions coming in. Crush Tidal Wave was asking what our thoughts were on, or I guess if there are any kids left around after nationals were over, for us to pick still, and that's a good question. It's tough every year. I think if they're really good and they're worth us going after right away, then usually you try to nail that down as fast as you can. But if you still kind of are looking for something special and you want to wait, it's a chance that you take that somebody's going to be gone when you ask. But you try to keep in touch with them as much as you can while you're at nationals, and just hope that you are what they're looking for too, because it's not only are they the right fit for you, but you have to be the right fit for them. So you hope that that's what they're looking for. But that's why we do when we try kids out, if we're interested in someone, we like to sit down with them and talk to them, and it's almost like an interview, or we always talk about it's speed dating. We got to make sure that we're the right fit for each other, and make sure we cover all those hot topics. So. We had another couple of questions about fall ball.
Yeah, the IHSA high school fall season. I know that they met this. I think it was this summer. The committee for the IHSA, and they talked about moving it to fall, and that I think would create a lot of issues. Mm-hmm. A lot of issues.
Yeah.
Missouri plays their high school season in the fall. There is a state down south. I can't remember if it's Georgia or Chattanooga, one of those, but they have a fall season,
right.
And I think that would cause a lot of issues come summertime.
Right. I know one of the reasons they're talking about it is for weather, weather's sake. But man, that would really kill the recruiting for the fall season.
Yeah.
Prime time recruiting season.
It'd be a lot different. I saw somebody else ask about pitchers' time off in the winter.
Oh, pitchers time off in the winter.
Yeah.
I mean, we like to try to shut our pitchers down for at least 2 weeks at a time. So around Christmas time, usually we have maybe one indoor tournament in December, and then after that tournament, we try to shut them down for a couple weeks. And I'll say, don't pick up a ball, don't throw overhand, and no pitching for 2 weeks straight. And then after that 2 weeks, then we'll work back into it. And we try to do the same thing right after our season ends at nationals, and try to give them at least a week or two off where they just don't throw. They can hit, they can run, they can work out, but we try to just give their arms a break. And any chance we get where we know we're going to have a big long break where there's no tournaments, then we try to give them like a week or two to try to just let their arm rest. But it's tough. It's tough when it's almost all year round for pitchers. So you got to be smart about it. You got to make sure that you're tracking their innings.
You got to have a full pitching staff.
Yeah. It's important to have a staff and not just a horse that you try to ride. Figure out which two pitchers complement each other and use two pitchers in the game. We went a whole summer one year all the way to nationals. We actually played all the way to third place ASA Nationals 18U level with two pitchers, basically, because we had a couple injuries, some things like that. But we had one pitcher that would start a game, and then we had one that would come in and close, and they complemented each other well. And it was very effective, but we rarely ever threw a pitcher a full game unless we absolutely had to. So.
I see someone saying it's hard to hear. Let me know if you can hear us right now.
And then we're quiet.
Yeah.
I know.
Let
me know if you can hear crickets.
Give us a message. Make sure you hear us. And diving back to some of the fall tournaments and the showcase season, we kind of touched on the Chesterfield Showcase 1 and the O'Fallon DeMarini. After that comes the Showcase 2. So in Chesterfield, they hold back-to-back showcase weekends. That same weekend that the Showcase 2 goes on, there's tournaments in Chicago, Indianapolis. Indianapolis holds many good tournaments in the fall as well. And then there's an organization called Let's Play For You by Dave Beecher, who runs great tournaments in Chicago, Crown Point, as well as in Peoria that are excellent tournaments as well. Then when you get to the first week in November, typically is when the Scenic City in Chesterfield is, and that's a excellent tournament for recruiting. It's a long trip for a lot of people, but when we were there this fall playing against a team from Georgia, Florida, we were scheduled, I think, against a California team, played Missouri, two Missouri teams, and I don't remember the other one, Ohio, I believe it was. And, that tournament, I think it's important. We go to it twice. Showcase that they hold going on. Obviously, a lot of tournaments out west. Triple Crown has the Ronald McDonald in Houston. Diamond 9 holds tournaments down in Florida. So a lot of great tournaments. There's some travel organizations that play every single weekend in the fall, and that's that's great that they can do that. Sorry, I guess there's still some audio issues. Sounds like it's good now, but we play about every other weekend in the fall with our organization. So, but let's talk a little bit about the fall tournaments and how to handle them. And what to do in those tournaments and the importance of them. So, a roster may have anywhere from 12 to 15 kids. Some of these teams out there carry more than that. We like to carry 13 players, but what we do in the fall is what we have seen is very successful is taking some tournaments where you bat the whole roster, you have rotation set up, you have your pitching rotation set up, and you rotate it. And then other tournaments or games where you don't bat the roster. And there's some reasons for that. You want to give kids opportunities every chance you can to prove themselves. And, it's a lot of money, a lot of travel. But at the same time, we don't like to have players get complacent. And if you're going to bat the roster the entire fall and the entire winter, that means that player's going to hit, whether they're at practice 2-3 days a week or not. So, that's one reason. Another reason is, a lot of times you have, let's say 6-7 hitters that are hitting a little better than the other 5 or 6 hitters. And when you bat 13 players, your 1 through 3 hitters get a lot less at bats. So it just depends how you do it. But the biggest thing I would say that is important, and I think the college coaches would agree, is even though they're showcases, you got to go out there and play to compete. You got to play to win. I don't care which 9 kids you're putting on the field or how you're doing your rotation. You play the game of softball the way it's supposed to be played.
Yeah. Yeah. No, we've heard comments before like, why are they bunting in a showcase? Or actually, we played a team a couple tournaments ago. We're a little upset with us for bunting against them, but you're still trying to play the game the right way, and part of that is the situational things and the strategy of the game, and that's how you score a run. That's how you score a run. So you gotta bunt, you gotta steal, you gotta make plays and try to play the game the right way. So,
but with doing that, doesn't that give the kids a better opportunity,
right,
to showcase their talents when you do some of those things?
I think it showcases that they know the game, they know what they're supposed to be doing at times, and knowledge of the game is huge. For players these days, because a lot of them can do one aspect or this aspect, but if they don't have knowledge of the game, it usually shows up pretty quick. So
right. I think another thing too is when you're talking about showcases, you can lose the team aspect of the game. And when a college coach is looking at a player, they want a kid that's going to come in and do whatever it takes for the team to be successful, not the individual. And when you look at showcases, sometimes you can get into habits of kids kind of playing for themselves, or why did I have to bunt there? There's a coach watching me, I want to hit, and those coaches want to know that you're going to do what it takes for the team to be successful. So I think that's important to still play for the team and be competitive.
Yeah, I see a question was asked, is there an untold rule when it comes to showcases? And I assume that means to how you play in a showcase.
Bunting.
The thing is, you got to teach the kids a game, and I mean, what good does it do? How are you really showcasing a player if the third baseman and first baseman know they can play back on the edge of the grass? That's taken away from the actual game. And the thing is, the game of softball, it's all about pressure. Who can handle the pressure? And we teach our kids to put pressure on both offensively and defensively. If you see a first and third situation and we don't do something on defense or offense, then guess what? I mean, we're not big yellers and screamers, but somebody did something wrong, because we want to put pressure on, and that's what bunting does. And even if you don't get the bunt down, it keeps the defense honest and on
their toes.
If a third baseman gets to stand back there and play behind the base all day long, it's not really showcasing how good they are, how quick they are. A bunt can make a third baseman look really good too if they come in and throw on the run on the wrong foot from the slot, make the play at first. That's a tough softball play. So, and I see on here speed kills. Absolutely, speed is it's almost king in this game. Now we've had teams that are real powerful too, but if you've got speed, you put pressure on, and that's what the thing is. If you're going to go play in a showcase and you're not ever going to bunt, you're not ever going to steal, or you're not going to do the normal things, you're not developing the kids. You're not teaching them the game, the knowledge of the game. So, is there an untold rule? Untold rule? I mean, maybe there is out there, but it's just not the way we coach. We have too much passion and too much excitement for the game. And I know college coach. I mean, I talk to them every game that we're playing at, or after every game, and I know they like seeing how we play. They want the games competitive. They want to see the players in the toughest situations, how they respond, how they react.
How do they overcome failure?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's
pressure's
a big
big.
thing.
Yep.
I think another person speaking of showcases, are they dying for the 14 and under due to the new recruitment rules?
I would say
Unless you're in the top.
the top echelon still, coaches are going to watch. They want to get to know. They want to see who's out there. Here's what I think will happen. I mean, right now this year, I think the top 14U teams are still going to be showcased in big tournaments. I mean, they were this fall. We saw some of the best teams out there, and they're good. But I think as time evolves, those top 14U players are going to just play 16U. That's what I think will happen again. And it used to always be that way back, when Christy played the game, or when her sister, who played at Illinois State, played. It was get to 18U as fast as you can and play there as long as you can.
Mm-hmm.
And I really see that as the goal now at 16U. Get to 16U as early as you can get there and compete, and at the high level, and then play there. Now, if you're going to go play at a 16U B team, I think you're better off playing 14U A if you're that level.
Yeah.
So I think the top 14U teams will still be showcased. Personally, I love the new recruiting rules. I think it's great. I think it takes pressure off of players. It gets stressful in September. We witnessed that this fall. And the players don't have as much time to go visit, 5, 6,
schools,
7 schools, which is really stressful for them. At 15, 16 years old, they don't really even know what they want to do next week, let alone what they want to do for, their next 4 years. But I like the new recruiting for that aspect. So
it definitely puts a little bit more pressure on them to make a decision sooner. You used to have a lot more time to make those decisions, and now they're it's on they're on a time crunch once September 1st hits. But those good players are going to go fast, and the coaches have to put pressure on them because it's a domino effect. And if they don't get what they want, then they've got to move on to the next kid, and it's all dependent on what that first kid does, and you don't know what they're going to do until September 1st. So it's tough, but it's good for the younger kids. It gives them more time to develop. We've had kids that in the past, coaches have already recruited that age group or that class, and by that time, they're already moved on, and our kids are getting left behind. And now it kind of puts everyone in the same playing field where they all get the same opportunities to play in front of coaches, but they get more time to develop. So they're all getting looked at around the same time. So I think it's good.
Yeah, it's really, really good. I know we're getting ready to start our winter seasons, and it's the Thanksgiving week next weekend, and then I think we're all off to the races there.
Right, yeah. So the transition from fall to winter, I know some teams don't play a lot of winter ball. We love the winter season. We are fortunate. We're 2 hours away from a couple indoor domes. There's one in Pekin, Illinois, that plays a lot of USA softball as well as NSA.
Now, there's going to be a few of those people from out in California that have no clue what dome ball
What's winter season?
Down south. I think I was talking to one of the guys from Mojo 16s this fall. And he goes, "What is dome ball?"
Yeah.
So
Yeah, they get to play outside all year long.
Yeah. And then there's a facility in Peoria, the Louisville Slugger Dome. I see a question on here, which is better? Well, it's what do you want? What are you looking for? So, for the younger teams, for sure, they're both great. And it depends. I mean, there's a different cost factor there. So I would say they're both outstanding facilities. I would say Peoria it's brand new, so it's a nice facility. It's full-size fields. They have it set up really well for keeping the players away, and you can really work on developing your game there. It's expensive, though, as I'm seeing here some posts. Costs more money. It's usually state of play if you're from a little further away, which, state of play is another topic for another day that we will dig into. But yeah, Peoria is state of play for the winter tournaments for sure. You know, it's more expensive.
What about the format?
The format, so in Peoria, typically you're going to get 4-game guarantee, a little bit longer game. They usually have 2 age groups playing there, and in Pekin, they'll play 3, 4, or 5 age groups in a weekend. So the games are usually a little shorter. They're usually 3-game guarantees. Now the positive in Pekin, if you're looking for USA or NSA, depending on what level you're at,
Yeah, qualifiers.
yeah, they have
Yeah.
qualifiers in Pekin. So you got to see what it is you're playing for. And there's points. If you're looking at points for USA softball, you get points there. Whereas in Peoria, they're pretty much just go compete and let the best team win, and really develop your skills though.
I'd say that's really for us what winter season's all about is now that we're through the showcase season and we've taken that pressure off of our kids. Now we're trying to develop our kids and make sure everybody's on the same page. Get kids opportunities that maybe didn't get them in the fall, and just try to balance that out and develop.
Really at the younger age groups, I'm talking 14 on down. The coaches really need to be careful and really try to give every kid an opportunity at the trophies here in the winter don't mean crap.
Mm-hmm.
They just don't mean crap.
You're right.
And and they really need to work, because I'll tell you what happens a lot is you get down to that summer season, and you got a kid that's been sitting the bench all winter, and you really need her to play. There might be injuries, somebody might have quit, and that kid could have been getting at bats and stuff and improving, and now she's not, and now you're stuck in a hole.
Right.
So
Yep.
Certainly in softball, you're only as good as your weakest link. So the stronger you can make that weakest link, the better. It's an all-around team sport.
You never know when you're going to need everybody.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I see some posts on here. Lighting's way better in Peoria. Absolutely. I mean, Peoria is a state-of-the-art complex. It's as good as it gets out there, and it's great that it's this close to us.
Hey! About 20 years ago, I played the first indoor took a team to their first indoor tournament down in St. Louis, and it was on a old soccer field, and there was hardly enough room. The outfield was basically just center field, and
No
you hit the
corners.
balls at no quarters. It was crazy, and you think the lighting at Pekin sometimes is dark. Oh my gosh, it was
Playing
just
in a
awful there.
closet?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we actually are getting an opportunity to go up and play at the Rosemont Dome this year, which will be our first year playing there. We've been there before, but that's where the Chicago Bandits play or in practice, and so we're kind of excited to see how that'll compare to what we've been seeing in Pekin and Peoria. So we'll let you know once we get up there.
One of the big keys about the winter, really, I mean, these players, as they get older, it seems like they specialize in one position, and we really believe in teaching them multiple positions. I can't tell you how many kids played shortstop for us at a high level, and they go on to college and they're playing first base or they're playing right field, and vice versa. So we really believe in developing players at all at multiple positions, and it's that's the time to do it, is in the winter. Really work on them. I mean, we were playing 4 or 5 winter tournaments, and we play up in the winter too. You got to challenge your team. Hopefully, you can see some stronger pitching playing up at all levels, and so that's the winter. It's player development. You can really challenge your kids. You might come out one game and say, "Hey, we're really working on hitting the opposite field today. I want you to try to hit every pitch every at bat. Try to look for that pitch to go opposite field." And play players in their secondary positions more, and just get kids opportunities, get them live pitching, seeing at bats, really working on putting pressure on teams, stealing more, running first and thirds more, doing pickoff plays more. That's when you practice it. A lot of these teams, they don't. There's a lot of teams out there that don't practice. They're showcase teams. They're excellent athletes. They're really talented, and our philosophy, how we can compete with them, is having our players know each other's game inside and out and playing together, developing together. I mean, we just had we don't like to practice this long typically, but we just had a 3-hour practice today. That's probably why we had some technical difficulties, because we didn't get back to our studio quick enough is what we thought. But, so I see. How much time do you put into strength training as opposed to regular softball fundamentals during the winter? As a team, it's tough to put in time with the strength training because we're an hour and a half away from some kids, but we hold them accountable. You can ask players that play for us. Coach KP, she's on them. She's got some tricks that we'll share on some other, stay tuned for some other live podcasts where we'll share some tricks on how to hold kids accountable. It's important. It's so important. Strength. I mean, that's been kind of the tail of the tape for our team this year.
Yeah. Now, we've been all about strength this year, and, I think it's important to add it into your practices. One of the best times to add it into your practices might be around when you're hitting. If you're breaking down into stations after you do your tee work, you can put that into a station, or you've always got somebody feeding, somebody hitting, and maybe there's one person standing out. You give them some exercises, some things to do while they're waiting, and we do a lot of that. We try to get our conditioning done during practice, so they're getting that something really good at least once a day or once a week with us, and then we'll send workouts out to them, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But we send workouts out to them, and then we expect them to be in the weight room during the week and try to hold them accountable there. But it really, ultimately, they've got to decide what's their priority and what's their goal. If they want to play at the top level, then they got to put a lot of time into strength because, that's where it's at. That's the difference between hitting a double or a home run, or just being a little bit bigger and those college coaches noticing you, the shoulders, the legs, all those little things, those details matter. And so strength is key. And I see some of our parents saying, we must get stronger. You are right. We'll stay on them. We'll keep working at it.
Our players and parents have heard that all fall. We stay in touch with both of our players and our players' parents on what we're working on as a team. So they've certainly heard that a lot. It just takes pressure off the other aspects of the game the stronger the girls get. So.
And I know, after the winter season, the high school season hits for the older kids, but then the younger kids start their spring season. I call it spring training. I like to get in some. I still work a little bit like I do in the winter, getting everybody in, working, different positions, so forth.
Right.
Trying to work that in.
For the young kids.
So, yeah.
Yep. Making sure they all know plays and
mix in
ready
some
to go for
different
summer.
levels of tournaments.
Yeah.
Maybe playing up a little bit. And
little success.
Yeah.
Here and there, but some still challenging them, right? So. Yeah, that's good.
And one thing during the high school season for the older kids, they really have to continue to work on their strength and their skills because, some high school programs are outstanding and some high school programs are just trying to get enough players to have a team. And so one of the things, we jump right back into the summer season in Chattanooga against some of the best is usually our first tournament. So if they don't work on their strength and their skill set on their own during high school season, then it's like starting all over again. And, that's at the older levels, of course. So definitely.
And you don't have time for that because you come out and the
Absolutely.
end of May out of your high school season here in Illinois and you hit that sort of
Yeah, there's no warm-up tournaments.
Yeah. And that's the thing. These girls have to do those workouts on their own just to stay strong. I mean, I always tell them, what is your end goal? What's your priority? I mean, if you don't think you can go do a lifting workout today because you've got a regular high school game on a Tuesday, I think you're mistaken. If that's a workout day, you should be doing your workout still. Maybe if you're a pitcher, you might adjust it a little bit. But, you got to look at what the end goal is. And the whole thing about this sport is too many times, I see this all the time, and I don't want to get too much tonight, but the parents and the players are so results driven, and it's a process. This sport is a process. It's a process every year, and it's a process to what is the ultimate goal, and a process to the life lessons that these young athletes are learning. And we've played some games where we might come out on top 4-3, and we just didn't play very good at all. And then we play another game where we lose 8-4 against a really good team, and we played really well. As coaches, we were more happy with the 8-4 loss than the 4-3 win. But those parents and players, they're so happy leaving the parking lot if we got a W. And I just kind of caution people to consider the process and consider, how did you play? What do you need to work on rather than just a W versus an L at the end of the day. We don't have a lot of time left here. Let's get a few questions in here.
Mike's asking, at what age do you recommend not playing every sport and starting to narrow your focus? And that's a tough one, but I think a big part of it is just the kids have to know that they have choices. And, as they get older and they get toward, closer to that recruiting time for them, the 16U, when it's their prime time, I mean, they've got to make sure that they know what their commitment level is and what their priority is. And, they've got choices. So if they are going to play in their sport and they know there's a big recruiting tournament that's going to be big for them, then they've got to be willing to make that choice or be proactive and talk to their coach ahead of time and say, listen, I've made this commitment to go to this tournament. I'm going to miss practice or I'm going to miss this. What do I need to do to make up for it? And they have to be willing to accept those consequences. It's just part of life, making choices and accepting consequences. I think that's important, and I think kids sometimes forget that they have those choices, and they think that they have to be all in at one thing at one time. And you've got to make sure you know what your priorities are. But I think it can be done. I think you can still play multiple sports. It just depends on I guess the commitment level.
Absolutely.
You got to know that if you get done, running cross country in the fall, and you need to go hit, you just got to go do it. Mm-hmm. You just got to go do it. So
yep.
It's about priorities. It's prioritizing your time and making time for both, and knowing, unless it's a big showcase or a big qualifier in the fall and winter, we tell our players, if you've got a basketball game, that's priority. But on those days that you have basketball practice from 3 o'clock to 5:30, you got to go take some cuts afterwards or get in the weight room. Mm-hmm. If you really want to be at the top elite level of the sport. That's not us making those players do it. That's just the competition out there and the level of skill that's out there today. So yeah. If you're not working hard, I can assure you there's always some young student athlete in softball working harder. So you need to keep your eye on that prize and say, I'm going to outwork everyone.
All right.
We'll see if there's any other questions that come through. We only have a couple more minutes here for this evening. Thanks for sticking with us, even though we had some difficulties early on getting live.
I'll get those worked out.
Coach Nolte's great at all this technical stuff. So, but what I do want to say to you out there, email us. If you're with another organization, email us privately, your name, address. We'll get you on our email list for extra stuff, practice plans, articles, camps list. If you're a coach, player, parent of a team out there that's watching anywhere, we want to start collecting memorabilia. So send us a shirt, a hat, a poster, anything for your team that we can show on air. And then also, I would like to say, in the future, we're going to be spotlighting teams. So share information about some of your accomplishments, some of the players to watch, players committed to what schools, your team goals, etc. Send us that info. And we'll do a little spotlight on your travel team, whether it's 12U, 14U, 16U, 18U, any level. We want information. We want to share the good word of softball around to everyone. So
we've got one more question if we've got time for that. Crush Tidal Wave says, what is more important, D1 or going to school to study what you want?
To me, that's easy. Yeah. I mean,
you gotta remember that softball is 4 years, but ultimately you're going to school for the rest of your life. So I think if you know what you want to do, you've got to make sure that they've got the major classes that you want to take, so that you're ready to go after your 4 years of softball. And I think that's the most important thing. Now there's some kids that don't know what they want to do, so while they're figuring it out, if they want to go play at the highest level, then that's a decision that they make. But if you know what you want to do, I don't think you can sacrifice the rest of your life just to play at a certain level. But that's my opinion.
And when we're talking to our student athletes about recruiting, you know, different athletes have different goals. Some of them want to go where they can play right away, and some of them just want to go to the absolute biggest name school, even if they're never going to step foot on the field. And that's just the decisions that they have to make. It's not up to us to decide where a player wants to go play.
Just try to give them opportunities.
Yeah, that's our whole goal, is just to get them. I mean, we play in front of 59 coaches one weekend, and if none of those coaches are interested in our players, guess what? I feel like we did part of our job at least. So that doesn't typically happen, but that's a good question. I personally think you go to the right school that's the right fit, that has the degree you want. Now, I also tell players, play the game of softball as long as you possibly can, because when it's over, it's over. I mean, coming from former athletes right here, that's why we're so passionate about coaching, because we're getting old and we can't play any longer. So play the game of softball as long as you can. If that means you want to go study, say, nursing or vet tech, and a lot of schools won't allow you to do that in softball because you got things that get in the way, but you can go out and find that D3 that might let you do that, or D2.
There's nothing wrong with junior college either, Brandon.
Absolutely not. Junior college, get those core courses out of the way and develop your game a little further, and then go on
give you
to,
more
to the higher
opportunities.
level.
Yep. It's all just, it's preference. Everybody's different, so you got to decide what's important to you, and it's different for everybody. So,
And I see another question here: how hard is it to play D1, get to D1 school, and study what you want? That's different for every athlete. I think there's a lot of athletes that, I'd say there's a bigger percentage of athletes that don't really know what they want to do. And in this day and age, the majors that student athletes commit to changes 2.8. They have 2.8 majors before they graduate school. So, which probably leads to a lot of 5-year students, but that's okay. You're going to have the rest of your life to work or do, fulfill your career. So enjoy college and play the game of softball absolutely as long as you can. And when you're done playing the game of softball, go get with an organization and start coaching.
Yeah, we need more college athletes coaching out there. Abby Belk, I saw your message earlier. We wish we were a little bit closer.
All right, coaches, you got anything else you want to add before we wrap up here?
No, I'm good.
All right. Thanks for joining us tonight. We're looking forward to more live.
Thanks for joining us. We'll be back. We'll get a schedule out with when we're going to air live next. And remember to always strive to be 1% better every single day in the game of life and the game of softball. And also remember, always respect the game. Thank you very much.
Break.